Our mutual friend told me, oh no, Helena's from Manchester. And I was like,
yeah,
what?
And I'm proud to be Mancunian.
So
I'm proud that I'm not from London.
I studied in Manchester.
It's a great city.
Yeah.
Not to be a Jew, but like, as a city, it's fabulous. So I was doing copywriting for a long time, and then I was doing LinkedIn for a little bit, and I was getting incredible money from LinkedIn and very easily. I think a big reason is that like we have a baby now, we really want a family. I think that for me always, listen, people have jobs with kids, it's not undoable, but it certainly felt like it would be easier if I worked for myself.
It was from, I ran London to Brighton, and I got to like, I don't know, 65 kilometres, and my knee was busted.
Yeah, I had a miscarriage recently. 4 days before my mega event, I had a miscarriage, which is like really, I mean, that's really hard physically. And I had to be at the mega event, and I had to be just like on. There was no time. I was physically suffering, I was emotionally suffering, but that was a really hard day for me.
Welcome to another episode of Talk with the Scot. And finally, I'm able to sit down with the very talented Helena Baker.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Thank you for inviting me into your house.
Thank you for coming. Give us more.
Yes, you're a hard lady to pin down.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm actually normally not. I just really was, I know it was terrible. I felt really bad. I just kept making mistakes with my calendar.
It's all right. We're all busy. It's good.
I'm really happy with me that.
I hope people will understand me and you talking. We've got a Mancunian and a Glaswegian. We will talk slowly.
People are used to Americans, that's the problem.
Yeah.
They're not used to Brits.
You know, I thought you were American.
I know, it upsets me. I'm so upset. I can't believe, like, what made you think I was...
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
Do you think it's just the default?
Maybe. I don't know. But it was our mutual friend told me, oh no, Helena's from Manchester. And I was like,
yeah, and I'm proud to be Mancunian.
So
I'm proud that I'm not from London.
I studied in Manchester.
It's a great city.
Yeah,
not to be a Jew, but like, as a city, it's fabulous.
Great city.
It's an amazing city. Yeah, we go. I mean, it's some cool places to be.
Are you City or United? Or you don't care?
I couldn't care less. Wow, the level to which I couldn't care is like quite extreme.
Really?
Whatever you want me to be.
I'm from Glasgow. Believe me, I couldn't care less.
We're so not a football family. Like, there's just no interest whatsoever.
That's funny.
But sometimes those Raiders I'll play along because they like it. I want to make them feel nice.
Absolutely.
But I truly couldn't care less.
All right. So whether you like it or not, you're some sort of leader in the English-speaking business community. So it is. But let's start there because I think it's important and I think it's interesting. Because whether it was your intention or not, it's happened. So being a leader of any sort, what skill set, what characteristics does one need to possess?
Well, that's a big question.
Yes.
That was on the list before, but I'll allow it. I'll tell you. I think, firstly, when I came to Israel, I think it's really important to know that I really knew no one.
Okay.
And I came on like a whim. Like, I came to Israel for a wedding. I had a terrible time when I was here for a lot of reasons. And it really made me a bit sad that I didn't have a connection to the country. And then 6 months later, I was on a plane. That's essentially the story. So it wasn't like I had tons of time to network, and it wasn't like I had tons of connections here. So much so that I remember the first ever networking I went to. I was in Yerushalayim. I traveled to Tel Aviv and got to the networking event. It was Hebrew speaking, arrived, took a picture and left because I just didn't know anyone. No one knew me. It was very awkward and I didn't have Hebrew at the time. So, it really is building it from scratch. Now, the one thing I will say about Israel is that it is doable here to become somebody. Like, it's a young country in every sense. The potential is great if you work it. So it's been really 5.5 years of LinkedIn, of networking, and of building myself to what I hope is, a nice place within the English-speaking community where I think people know me and I hope, more importantly, respect me. And I think that's what's really key. And it's really just been consistency. Like, I've always shown up. I've always been on LinkedIn. I've always been going to networking events. It's so not sexy to say, but that consistency in anything for any success is so key.
And you're the first person that I've sat down to talk to that I don't personally know or haven't worked with.
Okay.
Unfortunately for you, I did quite a lot of research before we're sitting down.
Very nerve-wracking.
So I've listened to a bunch of your podcasts.
The ones I've been on or my podcast?
Your podcast.
Okay, fine.
I've read a ton of your LinkedIn posts and just a load of content.
Okay.
And for somebody is quite visible online and puts herself out there in terms of networking, the words sort of fear and anxiety and stress pop up a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
So stepping out of your comfort zone, you've massively done, and you've done very well.
I'll tell you the truth. I do not have social anxiety. That's the God's own truth. I really don't have social anxiety. I think introverted, extroverted, it's all a scale. It depends on the day. Like, I think, you know, we spend way too much time worrying about what we are.
I agree.
But I do enjoy meeting people. I enjoy networking. I enjoy going to events. So that isn't going outside my comfort zone, to be honest. In general, I think mental health is really important. That's where the stress anxiety comes from. And I have anxiety anxiety can pop up at any time about anything. Again, less social, to be honest. I don't really fear, certainly not now, I don't fear walking into a room, because thank God I'm at a point where I don't.
Yeah.
But I've not feared that really. You know, I did a lot of networking in England. Like, that was much more intimidating than doing it here, to be honest. You know, in England, it was like 200 people, every time different, not knowing anyone. Here, it's a very small world.
It's a small world. And once your face is recognisable, then the barriers come down.
It's not. It wasn't so hard. That's the God's one. I mean, it was a lot of consistent work, but it wasn't. It's not an insurmountable challenge here by any stretch. You know, if you're on it, you're on it. I think, you know, when it comes to anxiety and stress and things, and I'll tell you the truth, that when I started my business, which was 6 months after I made Aliyah, which you should never do. That's like a crazy thing to do, and I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, I didn't think it would be this hard. That's the truth. And then 6 months after that, COVID hit.
Yeah.
Which at the time I thought, well, this is the end of the business, which is funny because I didn't have a business 6 months after I started. I mean, I had nothing. So it's quite a funny attitude to be taking. And in the end, COVID actually was incredible for my business, but that was busy, but it wasn't at the time that I knew that.
Why was it amazing for your business?
2 reasons. One is COVID, everything shut down. Everyone was at home, and a lot of people were at home with kids, and they weren't really able to work. I didn't have kids at the time, and I just posted on LinkedIn all the time. And that's really what my LinkedIn presence grew over COVID. And the way that a lot of people got big on Instagram at that point, like, I really became known on LinkedIn at that stage. And I did lots of free online networkings. Now, I really don't believe in doing free events, to be honest, but I had no choice. And the free online networking events show to people the power of networking. And the second thing is, and unfortunately this happened again with the war, is that when there's obviously the COVID and the war, you can't compare them, but essentially they're both disasters. And after those, people want community. So after COVID, there was a huge uptake of people feeling and wanting that community, wanted to meet people. And I don't know if you remember, but after the first lockdown, everything kind of opened up and it was a free-for-all.
Yeah.
And then eventually they realized that wasn't an option. We went back down to lockdown too. Between that break, like when I did events, I mean, they were huge because people were desperate. I actually went back face-to-face before the government said we had to. Because I remember looking around, there was a meeting in Yerushalayim and people there like a little bit older. And I looked around and I thought, oh my God, if someone here gets COVID, people were dying from COVID. And I was like, no, I'm not going to have this on my conscience. So even before the law said, then we went back online.
Yeah.
And I stayed online for like a really long time, even well after because I never wanted to be in a position where I was going back and forth. Like, I wanted to go back face to face and so yeah.
Right, but it's not just about consistency, because there are lots of people that are posting online and they're doing stuff online.
I don't know if that's true. Lots of people do it consistently, by the way. I want to tell you. I hear what you continue the point, but I question. I don't know that people are doing things consistently.
Right. But my point is, I think the last time I looked, you've got like 27,000 followers on LinkedIn.
Can I swear in this podcast? Is that okay?
Do whatever you want.
That's bullshit. I'll tell you why that's bullshit. Back in the day, you could say on LinkedIn and you could connect with people without. And LinkedIn will never stop you. Yeah. Now they stop you at 100 a week, as they should.
Yeah.
But back in the day, you could sit and, so what did I do before I moved Aliyah? I sit and connected with tons of people. So I have tons of followers who do not engage in my content, who are not relevant to my brand. I have tons in Israel, but a lot in England who are really not relevant to my brand. And every day now I go ahead and I delete like 4 or 5 pages of people from my LinkedIn. My goal is to get it down to 10, if not 5. Numbers mean nothing if they're not engaged with my content and not relevant to my brand. So it's very nice, but it doesn't mean anything.
Check if you've been deleted.
I'm deleting people for Larry's first, but I'll get to you, don't panic.
Right, but still.
Yeah, no, I'm going to want to do. I'm not trying, but I'm saying
there's more to it than consistency. It's being at the right time, being at the right place at the right time,
100%.
Being creative, having something a little bit different.
Yeah. Listen, I also, when we spoke about this before we sat down, that, I really do love what I do.
Yeah.
And I really do believe in the power of networking. Like I would say year 4, certainly now year 5, I'm into year 6 now, but I was always earning from other income revenue streams. I wasn't earning exclusively from ESM.
Yeah.
I was doing copywriting for a long time, and then I was doing LinkedIn for a little bit, and I was getting incredible money from LinkedIn and very easily, and I was good at it. And at the time, there was no competition in Israel. That is no longer the case. And it really got to a point where I had to say, am I going to do LinkedIn or am I going to do ESN? Because LinkedIn, I could have gone all in on that, and I think I could have had incredible results. What it ultimately came down to was that I really, really love ESN and networking, and I really, really don't love LinkedIn in the same way. LinkedIn's a means to an end, but it's not my passion in life.
And you think it's important to follow your passion?
I think you're going to find it very hard to be successful if you're doing something you're not passionate about. I'm sure there are people who do it. I think it's going to be hard. And ultimately, I want my business to be successful. I want to earn very, very well. And I think it's hard to do that if you're not. I mean, it's like with copywriting. I was never a great copywriter. I love the sales, I love the marketing, and I love like the networking side of it. And I was very good at sales. I wasn't an amazing copywriter. There was much better copywriters than me, who, by the way, were less successful than me because they weren't as good at business.
That might be the British education system.
No, it wasn't. Our time actually with copywriting is I'm a really bad spell checker, and I would pay spell checkers and they would miss it, and that was always my biggest issue. I mean, there was other issues, but that was like tachlis, an insurmountable problem as a copywriter.
But with the explosion of AI, it's probably better you didn't go down that path anyway.
Listen, everything, if you adapt and use AI strategically, then I'm sure as a copywriter you can make a very nice living.
Yeah.
But again, it wasn't my passion. And yeah, I think it's interesting. I never really thought about it. Because I'm not so idealistic. I'm quite pragmatic in that sense. Ultimately, I want to earn money. That's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
But I do really love this. And I really didn't go for it. I look back and I really didn't love it. It was fun.
So you've been in the country 6 months.
Yes.
And you set up networking business.
It's crazy.
Talk about throwing yourself in at the deep end.
Jesus, yeah. I mean, I really, again, I can't. I mean, I don't recommend anyone to go freelance in Israel anyway, firstly.
No, it's tough.
I'm a bit like the Beth in, like, you have to ask me 3 times and then I'll help you, like when you want to convert. Like, I
know that.
I really don't recommend it.
No, meaning 3 times.
Oh. No. That was really, I'm very responsive normally. Like, I really do pride myself. You were very nice. I really, whatever. I mean, I can tell people why I cancelled twice. Once because I was having a facial and my skin would have literally been peeling off my face. And then the second time, I made a mistake. Because I was so keen to reschedule you.
It's all good.
That I was so nervous.
I did laugh when you sent me a message though. Like, I need to reschedule. Promise you won't judge me if I tell you the reason. And I went, I'm not going to judge you. It's all good. And the thing is, if we had known each other, you would have got a very different response.
Yeah.
Because of course I was going to judge you.
My skin really, it didn't peel off in the way I thought it did, but it wasn't for the camera. It wasn't appropriate.
It's all good.
We got there in the end. Wait, what was the question? Oh, yes. Being freelance, I really don't recommend.
No, it's tough in Israel to go freelance.
Impossible. I mean, it's just, I don't know how it's impossible. I mean, it's not impossible. It's, of course, doable, but it's so, so hard. The truth is, when I made Aliyah in 2019, the market was hot. I could have got a copywriting job, no problem. And why I didn't do that, I could not tell you. Now it is harder to get a job, and therefore being freelance is more attractive, I would say. But in 2019, that was not the case. And I think also a lot of people go freelance for the wrong reasons, but that's a whole other story. So 6 months in, I started ESN because essentially I really miss like networking, just structured networking groups. And there weren't any in Israel in English. There was BNI, which is in Hebrew, and there's other groups that were in Hebrew, but there weren't so many. And they were not in English, and I didn't speak Hebrew. Like, now I do, but I didn't speak. I remember I remember it said, like, someone said they were a bit forced, which I know now as a printer. I remember thinking, like, well, I didn't even know what they did. Like, I can't network with people, and I don't even know what their jobs are.
Sure.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So I started 6 months after, and I was basically really lucky that at the time, I was dating someone who later became my husband, and he's Israeli, and he obviously has Hebrew, and he's also like not an idiot, and I'm pretty good with business. And if it wasn't for him at every stage of the business, but certainly the beginning, there's no way this business would have. I mean, there's just no way. Like, it needs both of us. Again, obviously, like, I'm very proud of what I've done. It's not to minimize my contributions and added value, but oh my goodness, I mean, my business. Obviously, I deal with English-speaking business owners, but the suppliers are all Israeli, and they're not really interested in speaking English.
No.
So
some might, but no.
And also, I remember I once spoke to someone who was English, and she was terrible at her job, and that got us into a whole whatever. And in the end, they would call me, and I would say, I'm just going to bring my business partner into the call, which was, of course, now husband Michael, and he would come in and he would speak to them, and then whatever.
It changes the dynamics.
Wow. I mean, I'm just so lucky that I had him. For many reasons, not just because of my business, but like, there's just no way. So I started 6 months after. So 6 months into my Aliyah, I started ESN. And then what happened was, because I really wanted to, like, I really needed it, and I was like, well, it's going to be really easy. I need this, so of course everybody else will need this.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, why most people start a business. Of course, an invite will be that easy. So we had the first launch, which went really well, and I remember so specifically the first member who ever joined, because it's like, oh my gosh, this might actually work. I was in the gym, I got the message that he was joining. He actually just rejoined, which was a really nice moment. He's called David Shatsky. He's very nice, which was also lovely. And then the second meeting, I'm really new to it as well, you've got to remember. I'm a bit of an idiot in general. So I was getting a taxi to the event space, which I really don't get taxis, so I don't know why. And people were messaging me being like, is the meeting still happening? I remember thinking, like, why are they asking me this? Like, I had no idea. And I said, of course it is. Like, why would you even ask me? And then Michael calls me and he says, Helena, like, is the meeting still happening? And I said, why are people asking me this? He's like, well, there's threats of Azakot coming to Tel Aviv, which at the time in 2019 was unheard of. We did not have Azakot in Tel Aviv. That had never happened. And I was like, oh shit. So I didn't know what to do. I arrived at the space, and at the time, like, now the food is catered and it's very professional. At the time, it was like me just throwing shit together. So I was in the kitchen kind of flinging food on trays, and people were messaging, we're not coming, we are, like, I had no idea what to do. I was in New Orleans. And then there was an azakah, which my husband said isn't true, but I remember there being an azakah in my space. I remember thinking, that's it, that's it. So I cancelled the meeting, had to apologize to people, and I thought, oh my God, this is the second ever meeting. The business is over. I mean, this is it. This is just it. Of course, it wasn't over.
Yeah.
And then we had COVID, and Lisa, we had a war, which is less funny. But yeah, it's been a ride, you know.
But it's funny because, I mean, you're talking about sirens and rockets. Yeah. I actually think it makes, certainly in Israel, everyone's to some extent used to it, but you become a lot more resilient and a lot more determined to succeed because of everything that you're up against.
This I don't know. This is very nice. I don't know if I could say that. I think I had no choice but to succeed. And certainly, like we discussed, like, you know, these things do help my business at the end. I would say that COVID prepared me for the business side of the war. I'm not talking about personally what that meant. That's like a whole different thing. But in terms of the business, the resilience that I built from COVID and the understanding of how a business works is the reason when the war struck, I was very able to deal with it business side, like obviously personal. Totally different situation.
So you've started to touch on some of the initial challenges that you faced. Some are very unique to this country in terms of rockets and sirens. New immigrant in the country, lack the language. Even at this point, everything's going against you.
Yes and no, because I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, it was. I can't even tell you how hard it was in the first few years. And I remember just before COVID hit, I was in England actually. Like I had to rush back because like lockdown was imminent. And the Tel Aviv meeting that week I cancelled because I lied and said the space was a problem, but there was 3 people who were going to turn up, which is like embarrassing, especially if I'm not there. So like it was so hard, especially when you're doing events business, especially when like it relies on a community. I mean, it was so hard. And I remember like on Shabbat meals, I was like meeting new people, I was new, and they would ask me like what, and I couldn't even talk about it. Like I couldn't even discuss it on Shabbat because it was going like, it felt like it was just such an uphill battle and it was so hard. And I was just like, I didn't even want to discuss it. It was like so hard. And the only thing, I'm not even sure why I kept going, that's the truth. I think a big reason is that like we have a baby now, we really want a family. I think that for me always, listen, people have jobs with kids, it's not undoable, but it certainly felt like it would be easier if I, you know, worked for myself.
Yeah. I've
also always been freelance, so I think, you know, there's something to that. But it was so hard. Like it was just an uphill battle.
No, it is hard. I moved here at the end of 2002 and worked for, I don't know, about a year and a half, couple of years, and then
Wait, 2002?
Yeah.
You've been here ages.
Ages.
Wow, it's a really long time.
It is, and you don't lose this accent. So,
it's gentle.
Yeah, but and then I opened my own agency.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it was called Matan Media because my eldest son is called Matan. But yeah, the first like couple of years is really, really tough going because you're learning new skills. Forget just the business. You're having to deal with the bureaucracy, and it's not in your language. It's hard enough in English. It's very, very challenging. But that's why I was going back to makes you a lot more resilient and determined because you've got those extra hurdles to overcome.
It made me resilient. I don't know where the determination came from. I don't know why I didn't get a job. I don't know.
Because it probably in the back of your mind, you knew that you wanted to go do something for yourself.
I remember so clearly once going up a bridge with our friends and just being, and this was like 3 years in, this wasn't brand new. And I was like, I just don't know if this is going to work. And my friend was like, just give up. And I was like so offended by that. But that is if someone says that, then that's that's the response.
But that's the but I don't know about you, but that's all the motivation you need. Somebody says just give up.
It just never occurred to me. I don't know. I really don't know why I kept going, because it was so hard.
You know what? For me, I love running. Mm-hmm. I do long distance running.
I even run, but I'm not long distance.
Right, and there have been times where I've had to just sit down because, my knee was busted or whatever.
Have you done a full marathon? Yeah. Oh, you're like a serious. I've done a half marathon. That's like my proudest achievement. You're like a serious. What's a long run beyond a marathon? What's like beyond a marathon?
I've done 100 kilometers a few times.
What's a marathon?
42.
Oh, Jesus. How long does that take you, 100 kilometers?
I did one 2 months ago and it took me just over 14 hours.
You ran for 14 hours?
Yeah.
Do you stop?
If you want, then you do. Makes you very, very... We can talk about that another time, but a lot of determination and focus. And it's great.
I ran for 2 hours, proud as fuck.
But the first time I ever did it, it was I ran London to Brighton. And I got to 65 kilometres. And my knee was busted.
Yeah,
and I remember sitting down and I phoned my wife because she was driving and following. And I sat there and I said, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can carry on. And she was with my sister, one of my sisters. And my sister, knowing me, said, yeah, I didn't think you could do it.
That's such a sister.
And I was like, help me up. And off I went. For me, as soon as I feel that somebody's doubting me or the stacks are against me, that's it. Like the spark ignites.
Yeah, it offended me. I was more like, and she didn't mean to offend me. She really was like, listen, you complain, just get a job. And a few people have said to me oh, just give up, get a job. And every time it would offend me. Was that? Oh, whatever, I'm still here 5 years later. For whatever reasons, maybe me and my therapist will discuss.
Right, but you're not just still here.
Yeah, no, I'm doing well, thank God.
You've grown it through a lot of hard work, a lot of perseverance.
I'll tell you, hard work, yes. I think also, and I remember this when I was a copywriter back in the day, that in the early years I was working really, really hard. I could not tell you what I was doing. I don't know what I had no business. What on earth was I doing? I don't know. And the same other when I was a copywriter. I remember working so hard in the first few years. I had no clients. What was I doing? Again, I don't know. So now I do work really hard. This week, I'm trying to get some projects off the ground and I'm really working very hard. And honestly, it's not that I particularly want. I don't want to be working this hard, but I am, and that's fine. But I feel very strategic and I really feel like I have very clear business goals and a very clear understanding of how I can grow the business. And that took, I would say, 5 years to get to a point, not just earning nicely, which I did get to, but it's, again, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm earning more than I would in a job, I think. But it's more about okay, what I'm working hard, but what does the business need? What is the goals? What's the objectives? Now when I'm networking, I network more strategically and really have an understanding of what I'm selling or I'm offering to people as well. So there's a very big difference to the hard work I did at the beginning, which felt very much just groping around in the dark.
Yeah.
Whereas the hard work I do now, which is still very hard, but at least I'm there's a light, there's a clear goal.
So before we get into where you're going to head to, because I'm very interested in that, especially in the strategic side.
Yeah.
Are you happy with where you're at?
No, but I never am on the type.
Okay.
I'm never happy, ever. I'm British.
I was going to say, that's a very British thing. It's that British, dour, not happy, don't want to give myself a pat in the back.
If I just hosted an event with Monday.com for International Women's Day, and then we did an event at Malka. And I spent a lot of money on that event at Malka. That was baller, especially the event at Malka. I mean, that is cool, yeah?
Yeah.
I think at Malka I was a little bit proud of myself, but I was nowhere near as, if you'd have told me in 2019 that you're going to host an event with Monday.com, our sponsors paying thousands of dollars, and you're going to host a dinner at Malka, I would have been no way, it's not possible.
Yeah.
And then it happened, and I was like, okay, what's next? Let's go. Which I think you kind of need to be an entrepreneur. Oh, I hate that word, but I think you need that a bit. But also you can celebrate the wins. On the way to Malka, my husband, I was like, this is cool. He was like, yeah, this is cool. And he also never compliments me.
So was it the event with Monday where you wrote on LinkedIn, I lie in bed thinking about everything that could go wrong, running through the event minute by minute and seeing where suppliers could let me down, where things could go wrong.
I'll tell you the truth is that I do have anxiety, and I was not born to be an event planner, which is what I am, by the way. I'm a glorified event planner. Good God, I was not born for this. I'm not meticulous. I don't give a shit about aesthetics. I worked at UJS when I first graduated the University of Students, which of course you know. I worked there for a year, and the person who did the job before me, called Roxy K, she was Rochester Lovely, is an incredible event strategist. Unbelievable. So then when I adopted the job had become very event focused. I mean, I would cry. I was terrible. I forgot things. I was awful. I was not born to do this, yeah? I'm very lucky that my husband was a logistics officer in the army and is very good at logistics and is much more aesthetic than I am, like much more. And together we like have it down to a fine tea. But there's always things at events that will go wrong, yeah?
Of course.
You know, for the Monday event, up and on the Thursday I asked a specific person what's the cash for us for the event, because I often have front people, so I always want to do, which is something you learn over time to know like about that. When the person went to check and said, okay, there's actually no food been ordered. It was Thursday, the event was on a Monday. It was on the following Wednesday. I was like, okay, listen, I wasn't stressed because I know at the end of the day, you can always go downstairs. You'd always find food in Israel. Yeah. But I was very calm. But it's not ideal. And the food on the Monday arrived. The event started at 9:30. The food arrived at 9:29. This was a very serious
So event. Arrived.
Exactly. I listened, had it arrived. I knew it could arrive till 10. The event was starting at 9:30. Okay, so we would like change things around. Yeah. What I'm very good at is when things are going wrong, that's when I shine. Like I'm really good when things go wrong. I really do stay calm. In fact, I'm better when things go wrong. That's the God's honest truth, which is a problematic for self-sabotage, but I'm very good when things go wrong. That's whatever. So I was chill, but like, you know, you learn these things. But the fact that I'm an event planner is wild. Like that's the fact that I do that is crazy.
I think it's interesting what you just said about when things go wrong. That's when you shine. Because first of all, it's a great skill to have.
Yeah.
I was saying to somebody in my team just last week, actually, the more pressure I'm under, the better I respond. When I think everything is going well, and I've always been like this, when I think everything is going well and results are great and clients are really happy, and that's when you start to think, oh, you know, I deserve, I can put my feet up.
I think, yeah, but then I also find that like, if something, the truth is, thank God now our events, like things, you know, this is not just a plug, like we really have networking down to a fine. I say we, because my husband comes to all my events and we're a team there, and I lead like the social side and he leads the logistics side, but we know what we're doing and we really run them like a tight ship, which leaves me after the event feeling a little bit empty, to be honest, because when we first started doing events, I mean, so much would go wrong. And the first two that we did, it was like, you know, a Hail Mary.
It's a learning curve.
And I would like feel energized afterwards because I'd be like, I fixed this, and this. I remember the first event that we did in Yerushalayim, the first mega event that we did, which was really, I would say, when we started to really level up. That's when we really, that's when the business, I think, really started. Let's say the big event side of the business is when that really started, was January 2023. And I felt empty after because there was no major disasters. So that's a hard thing to know, that really, like, and you know, the events now, I don't have situations where things are going crazy wrong. It's just not, it's not the level that we're playing at anymore, which does afterwards leave me feeling a little bit empty. Because I love the job.
Yeah, I get that. I understand that. It's funny, you're talking about sort of failings and things going wrong. So on your podcast, when your husband interviewed you, and he's a very brave man for doing that. Don't think any husband should have to do that, but whatever.
That's how you said that.
He, and I will put Helena's podcast, a link to the podcast in the comments. But he said, all the failings belong to you. Right? And I laughed at that. But why do I remember that?
Yeah, some good lines.
Because you turned around and said, yeah, I'll take that. I'll accept that. And I think as a business owner, you need to own the failings. And I know it was said in jest and all the rest of it, but I think something important can come out of that, because if you don't own the failings or the problems, then A, you don't learn, and B, you don't fix it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you also that my husband is not a risk taker. He'd be fine with saying that. But, you know, the first event, the big event that I did, the first mega event was my idea. And it was a huge risk. I mean, we had no idea what we were doing. The truth is, the second one that we did, the first one was traumatizing. That's the truth. It was really a harrowing experience. I remember on the day that people were cancelling and wanting their money back. And I was like, and not just one, like a number of people. And it was like, but I paid, like, I can't give you money back. Like, that's crazy. I mean, then we later wrote it into the terms and conditions, whatever. And I don't get that anymore. And people were very stressed about parking. I mean, it was like harrowing. I was like traumatized from it. And I didn't really want to do another one. And then the second year, my husband was like, you've got to do this again. And I was pregnant and I really didn't want to do it. And he really pushed me to do it. But yeah, I would say, you know, I think of the two of the biggest failures I've had, one is I opened a group. I won't go to the back story, but I opened a group that was for the Australian market at 2:00 in the morning Israel time.
Okay.
There were no words for what a crazy idea. And everyone told me it was crazy. And I was like, no, I'll be fine. And it was crazy and it was terrible. It was just awful. And I did a big thing of a COVID that also failed. But yeah, I think most of the failings are mine, but that's how you grow a business. You've got to take risks. Had I not done the first mega event, it wouldn't have led me to what really is the future and the backbone of the business. You know, But to get there, I tried many things that didn't work, or they worked for a little bit of time, which also is fine. Like things can work for a bit and then not. Like it's about being like amenable to like changing and shifting.
Yeah, you mean you've got to. I remember about 6 months or a year after opening my agency, which I ended up selling about 7 years ago. I flew over to London with my business partner at the time because we'd been asked to go over and pitch to Ladbrokes.
Oh wow!
We went in, pitched.
That's really cool.
It was cool. Went in, pitched, and they said, I can't remember exact order, but I think they said, come back in the next day or come back in a couple of days. And we went back in and they said, right, we want to, you're the preferred agency for our digital. And
that's huge.
Amazing. They said, it's got to be this, it's got to be that. And we worked out the terms and all good. And we got back in the plane and we flew back here. And as we're on the plane, we're like, shit, we need to recruit staff.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have any staff at the time. So we went into a corporation like Ladbrokes, and maybe I shouldn't be sharing this on camera, but who cares? It was about 17 years ago. It's about 17 years ago, who cares? And we came back and it transformed and changed everything about who we were as a company, because we went from, I think at that point, 3 to overnight, like 8 or 9 people.
That's crazy.
And sometimes you just got to, work it out as you go along.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God, the first years, I mean, when I started ESN, people were paying for air. Like, what were they paying for? Nothing existed in those days. Yeah, they were basically buying into me in the belief that I would build something.
Yeah.
But it was bullshit. Like, it didn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna pray, baby. Like, even now, like, now I do feel. But I'm saying, yeah, for sure. In the beginning, the years, you're just like, it's all air. It's all.
Yeah. But it very much exists now.
Yeah, no, now it's
now it very much exists.
Yeah, for sure. But in the beginning, now, like, wow, the fact that people, paid me in the early years is nothing short of a miracle, really.
Okay. We're now 5.5, 6 years further down the line. What's at the beginning you're saying, not an entrepreneur, you are.
No,
where are you now?
So I am an entrepreneur, that's the truth, but like, I just don't like the word. I think people who use it often dickheads. That's my issue with it. The word itself.
I would agree with you.
Yeah, like people have entrepreneur on the LinkedIn, I'm like, okay, cool. It's often like white British men, I find, of a certain age or a certain category of people. Listen, the truth is that I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah, I've been freelance for 10 years. I've been freelance my whole professional career. Like, that is what I am, but, I'm also not a dickhead. So where am I now? Now I don't know how much into the backbone you want to get, so if this is boring, let me know, but I have 3 groups that meet regularly in Israel for small business owners. We have Yerushalayim, Tel Aviv, and online. When I first opened ESN, my belief was that I would open groups all over Israel. We would have Haifa, we would have Renana. It should take me about 6 months to learn this, it took me about 3.5 years to learn this, is that it's not possible. The market isn't there for so many reasons I won't bore you with. And they also cannibalize from each other. So if you've got Modin in Jerusalem, then, they're cannibalizing groups. So my goal is not to grow any more groups. It's to have those 3 groups. They're all around 20 members. I'm pretty happy with that number. I would like to just continue to offer them more and more value, actually. But I don't see room for growth there. Particularly, they're important to my business and very, very important, but there's no growth. Okay, so.
Talk me through one of the groups. Like, how often do they meet?
Sure.
What do you do?
They meet every other. So what's important is the professional lockout. What does that mean? That every group has 1 accountant, 1 real estate lawyer, 1 commercial lawyer, 1 graphic designer. They meet every other week. Every meeting, everyone has 60 seconds, introduce themselves. Then we have a member speaker, and then if it's face-to-face time for schmoozing, and if it's online breakout rooms with Zoom. Like with Zoom, you can do breakout rooms.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very much modeled on big organizations like BNI. People have heard of those groups, or there's tons of networking groups across the world that do this model. I've just adapted it and made it a little bit more modern, a little bit more fun and relevant for the online market. But I'm not reinventing the wheel by any stretch. But those are like the 3 groups. And then I do my big mega event every year, around December, January time, kind of, but with the war, that was later. Yeah. In January, we had 190 business owners come. We had 11 sponsors, and that's how I make my money through sponsorships. And that's something that I want to continue growing every year, just make bigger and better. I make money through sponsorships. Also, more and more, we are seeing people join from those events, but that took a while. Like, the reason I did the first year was brand building to get people to join, and it took quite a few years for that to really be the case, actually. But it's not the reason. I didn't have that focus at all this year. I gave a bit of an incentive to join, whatever, but people did join this year, and I think that's just a testament that it's getting bigger and I'm getting better at doing it. That's kind of the small business side of ESN, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You have no questions, so that's all clear, right?
That's very clear.
Fabulous. Okay, so what's the newer side? So that has always been earning money, but not enough.
That's like the bread and butter.
with you, but it's not enough. So the question was, okay, how do I earn more money? So I tried Open to ESN International, I tried various different things, and none of which worked. But what has worked, slowly me seeing with the mega event and getting the sponsorship. So in my second year, we had one sponsor. They paid 3,000 shekels, and I thought it was unbelievable. And then the second year, I had 5 sponsors, and they all paid the same, and they all paid more. And then now we had 11 sponsors, and they all paid like different gradations or whatever. And they get a lot of stuff for being sponsors, like what I really think I do very, very well. And lots of people offer sponsorships in Israel. It's not only me. I truly believe I offer more than anyone else in terms of value add, because there's like a lot of things that go alongside it.
And 3,000 shekel is about £600.
Yeah. I mean, no, I do have now a price point at that level. But I'll tell you something funny is that I have ambassadors at my event who are there to like help, whatever. In the first year, I paid friends and colleagues to be ambassadors for me. Now people pay me to be ambassadors. Like that's the difference. That's the switch. Because it's like mechubad. That's the small business side. Boom. Now we're talking. So where's the money, basically? Like, how am I going to earn money? How am I going to grow this? Now, high tech is where the money is. But how am I, Helena Baker, going to get into high tech? I had an idea to an event for lawyers, specifically for lawyers, because I always like the legal market. And they love networking, and they have a decent amount of budget.
And there's lots of them in Israel.
So, and I had also a group specifically for lawyers at one point with ES International, which could have worked. I just didn't have the time to do 2 businesses, but there was huge potential for it. So I do a lot of outreach on Facebook and on LinkedIn. So I reached out to someone on Facebook coming to ESN, and she replied to me, which is crazy. And she said, I work for Herzog Fox Neeman. Now they are the biggest law firm in Israel. And I said, okay, well, this is not relevant to you, but I do have an idea to an event for lawyers. Would it be of interest? Now, how I had the guts to say this, I couldn't tell you. And why she replied to me, I also couldn't tell you, but she did. It was actually when my husband was in Middlewim. So I went to an event at Herzog Fox Neeman for like women, and I took my baby with me because she was still kind of young enough that it was doable. And I didn't really have a choice because, you know, I was fairly low. And I took her to this meeting with, and I was like a part of her. I mean, it's crazy. And I explained to her my idea, which really was an idea. I mean, it was like nothing at the time. And she said, okay, I'll get you on a call with the marketing team. So I had a call with the marketing team who were very serious. I mean, it was like a serious call, and it was in Hebrew. And my Hebrew is good, but like they were intense, as they should be. Yeah, should be intense. They should definitely vet me like I was a nothing. And they said, yeah. So I did an event for lawyers at Herzog Fox Neeman, which is like, that's luck. That's when luck. I mean, is it luck? It's having the idea, it's having whatever. It's lots of things, but like the fact that I got in the door, that opens up for me. Like having that name then opened up tons of doors for me. It was also an incredible event because by that point we knew what we were doing. What's important to know is that had the opportunity to come up in 2020, I would have fucked it because I wasn't ready yet to do an event at that level. But in 2023, we were ready. We knew how to run these events. We knew what we were doing, and we were ready to put on an event in 2023 at the level of Herzog Fox Neeman. So it's also important that the opportunities come sometimes at the right time. Thank God the opportunity wasn't around in 2020. I would have made a mistake. I wouldn't have been ready for it.
Yeah, but you know what? I also think a lot of times you make your own luck.
Yeah, no, listen, I asked her, I pitched it. I worked hard to get it, but I mean, the fact that they let me in the door. It happens to be for Herzog Fox Neeman are very generous with their space. They have a beautiful space and they encourage people to use it, and they're very, very good. So the way the model worked is that they gave me the space, they gave me their name, which was really what was important, and they paid for the food, which, by the way, in Israel is a huge expense.
But very important.
You've got to have food, but it's a huge. I want to tell you that's going to screw you. They let me charge for tickets, which is, crazy. It's totally wild. No other company does, and I don't even charge for tickets for these events for strategic reasons now, but they let me charge. And people wanted to sponsor because it was at Herzog Fox Neeman.
Of course. So
I had like 5 sponsors. I think to this day, it's probably my most profitable event to this day, to be honest. It was really successful. Not just for my fan. Everyone agreed that it was a good event, and it opened the doors. So then I had an idea. Okay, so what basically developed is that now a big part of my business is mega events in collaboration with companies.
Okay.
So I wanted to do an event for International Women's Day. I have a contact at Monday.com who used to be a member of ESN and then went to work for Monday, and I came to her with this idea to do the International Women's Day event. She said, yeah, because she knew me, she trusted me, she knows me very well. And that just happened last week.
I saw.
That, thank God, was an amazing success.
I heard a lot of good things about it.
It was a really good success. I pissed people off because it was application only, and I really stuck to that because the sponsors paid a lot of money to make sure the right people were in the room, and I was limited with numbers. And even if I wasn't, it doesn't matter.
How many people were there?
70. I was allowed to, that's all I had space for. And I didn't want it to be, because I've had events where there's been too many people, and at that level, I wanted it to be not too many people. So I could have probably had a few more in, but I was very nervous. And then we had the market dinner alongside that. Now, what the essential goal is of the business is that every year, every January, December, I'll have a mega event. Every March, I'll have an event for International Women's Day. I'm already planning, by the way, my mega event for 2026 is already in the works. I'm already getting sponsors on board. I'm already working on behind that. And the event for 2026 International Women's Day is I've already got meetings arranged because I want it to be bigger next year, so I want a bigger space. I'm already working on that. I also want to do an event for CFOs in September because I think there's a lot of events for marketing people. There's a lot of events for cybersecurity, but CFOs are neglected, and they're a huge way in which to get to a company. That's a huge avenue to get to a company.
Yeah.
I think so. I've got actually a meeting this afternoon, fingers crossed, about that event, about a place to host it. And if that doesn't work, then I'll keep going. I've, by the way, tried lots of events that haven't ever got off the ground.
But that's part of the learning curve.
Saying, I'm making it sound like it's been really easy. Like, I've tried to a real estate event now for 18 months. I've spoken to 3 different venues about it that have fallen through. I've tried to do it by myself. It doesn't really, I'm saying...
It's never easy.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want it to sound like it's been easy. It's not. So the goal is for me really is to have every quarter, an event a mega event where I've got the sponsors that's counting my money. So I want to have January mega event, International Women's Day event, the CFO event, we'll see. I mean, it may not go off the ground, and then another event. And then eventually the goal is that companies will simply pay me to do events for them because they know I'm good at what I do.
Meaning that's your long-term vision.
Yeah. I mean, I always want to have those 4 events, but alongside that, I want people to be paying me to run events for them, whether that's intimate networking at dinners, whether that's bigger events, what that will look like. But then they will bring me in because I, Helena Baker, am known as a networking person, and I'm slowly can see that happening now. I don't think that's going to be tomorrow, but that is the ultimate goal. And the ultimate goal is that I'm flown to America to either do a podcast season there, that like people will pay me because they want to be on the podcast and they'll have seasons, or that people pay me to like speak at an event or to run a networking event for them in the States. That's like the very long-term goal, but we're talking like 10 years.
I think it is super important for any business owner, and maybe actually even a manager or somebody, you've got to have goals in mind. You've got to have something.
And I didn't for a long time.
Right. And you think that was one of your failings at the time?
I think it's hard to have goals when you're first starting because you've got no clue what you're doing, to be honest. And my goal was just to like get it bigger and to earn more money. So that was the goal. But that's not really a goal. Like that's everyone's goal. It just made it really hard. Like now, like this week I worked really hard. Like I'm not saying that like that is being a business owner. Like some weeks you just work really hard. Like I'm also trying to really grow my Instagram, which is really hard work. Like it just is. And it's fine. Like it isn't like no one should cry for me. I have a great life. But this week I've like put the baby to sleep and I've worked then for another 3-4 hours. That isn't the life. A lot of people want that life. That is not the life that I particularly want. Like I don't want to be working like this. I don't think it's fun. I don't think it's sustainable. And I'm not seeing results yet also, which is not a nice place to be.
Okay.
Well, on Monday I wasn't. Today I'm seeing more.
I think it's very easy for people on the outside to look in and see, you know, you're active online and you're putting on events.
People get very jealous also.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, 100%.
And for anybody that's not built something from scratch, they have no idea about the level of dedication and sweat and hard work and sacrifices that come with it.
They say like, oh, you know, I see posts on LinkedIn. And by the way, I post on LinkedIn that do not do well. Not that it's a big deal, but it hurts always. I post on LinkedIn that do terribly. I've had podcast episodes that have not done it. Like, I hear the jealousy. Like, I hear people say it in their voices. And I want to say, like, it's really, really hard work. Like, and now, like, I'm working really, really, really hard. And I'm succeeding, I think. But like my International Women's Day event also, like I had 3 sponsors, which is, my husband keeps telling me, like, you have 3 sponsors, like you have nothing to compare it to. But I imagine I would have more. Like I thought, now I always have that issue that I always think I'm going to do way, way better than is possible. And it has to bring me down. But I worked hard for those 3 sponsors. I had talked with many sponsors who did not work out for various reasons.
But you just mentioned, like, you think you're successful. And then you went, I think.
Yeah, I'm British.
But what does success look
so listen, to you? I always want to be earning more and more. I have like a figure in my head of what I'd like to be earning. I'm a long way from there, let me tell you. I'm not going to tell people what I earn. I do earn more than I would in a job.
So that's what I'm saying. The success, do you equate success with a number? Or is success maybe how big the events are? Or is success because over the course of 12-month period you hear that you've helped 10 people find new jobs?
So I don't help people find jobs, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. So listen, like nothing makes me happier than in my ESM meetings where people say I got business from them. Nothing. I mean, nothing gives me more joy. That's what I'm here to do because I really believe in like people making money and getting parnosa. And the same at my big events. Nothing gives me more joy than people say I got a client, whatever it is. Like really, and for my mega event, people get tons. I mean, it's wild the business that goes on at a mega event because it's a one-day event, which really it's hard to get business from a one-day event. But because it's like so focused on networking and it's so intense, like people really get like lots of business from it. And then the big events are developing, whatever. So that to me ultimately is going to be buying a property with the, with the earnings from my husband also has a job and we have savings. My parents will help, but like that's a big goal for me. And I want to be very financially successful. I also really want to be fluent to America, but I think that's more of a vanity thing than anything else.
Somebody buy her a ticket, fly her over.
We did fly to America ourselves, by the way. So I sent myself to America. And I did speak at a conference there, which was cool. They didn't pay me, but it was cool as fuck.
Did they understand you?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I'm good. I'm like on podcasts it's hard, but I'm like decent at events. I'm fairly good at events. It was for me event actually. It was very funny. What does success look like? I also I also want to have time to spend time with my family. Like, we have one baby. We please God really want more kids. Like my focus is my family, my business, and my mental health. Like those are the three things that I care about the most right now, especially because I have a young family and that is a lot of time. And those are the three things that are most important to me.
Those are good answers.
And that's like what it boils down to at the end of the day. And I've become much better at setting boundaries, which was a real challenge for me. I'm really trying to improve on it. And my husband's really pushed me with that.
Setting boundaries is very important, but you can only start to set them when you realise you've made mistakes in the past.
Right, yeah, but I knew I was making mistakes as I was making them in the past.
So talk about some of those mistakes.
A little bit more personal, less so business, that's the truth I'm trying to say. I'm very with friends, I've always had issues with boundaries and that sort of thing. It's less. Listen, I think with the business, actually, I did a podcast episode with Esther Taub, who also lives in Gavashtmal. She's very big on Instagram, and she runs a fitness, and she's a people pleaser. We both are people pleasers, and she said something which I thought was very interesting: is that people pleasers get a lot of hate, but her business has succeeded because she's a people pleaser, because she's responsive, because she gets on with it. Like ultimately that's the secret to her success. And I'm the same. I think a lot of business owners are. So I think boundaries in my business. Listen, I don't work weekends, more or less. I do work evenings, unfortunately. I could lie and say I don't, but I do. It just wouldn't be accurate. But I don't wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Like that is not my truth.
But I think setting boundaries, especially in a country like this, is so important because everybody is so on. Yeah. Everybody's on, and not just digital marketers or somebody with event owners. Teachers are working, answering WhatsApp from parents and their students. Everybody's constantly on, and if you don't set those boundaries, then that whole work-life balance just goes out the window. I think ultimately you've got to respect yourself and respect your time because no one else will respect it for you. I think that's what you've got to really understand. Yeah. And that's a real mind shift change, but that is really true. I agree. Basically. I agree. I went back with my family for a couple of years, 2.5 years, and I saw the difference. Really? Yeah, I really saw the difference. I'm not saying people in the UK are lazy, because I don't believe that, but there's just a different vibe. There's a different there's a different pace here to things. As well as intense. It's intense. It moves fast, and I guess to some extent that's why it's successful. That's why there's so many startups. That's why, because people are willing to do things. People are willing to step out of their comfort zone to some extent. There's also much more potential here, and I feel it. I really do. In England, it's very old school. It's much harder to break in. I would never have worked with the equivalent of Herzog. It would never have happened in England. It's something that could only happen in Israel. Yeah, there is potential here, but people also don't work hard enough. That's the truth. A lot of business owners I know who aren't earning, they don't work hard enough. Really? Yeah. I mean, a lot of business owners, remember, because of the line of work I'm in. Yeah, they do. They don't put the effort in. I find a lot of Olim think this country owes them something because they made Aliyah and they now live in Israel and they left behind an amazing life in America. We as Brits have this less because our lives in England weren't as amazing as they are in America. So you just had an event. Obviously, it's International Women's Month. Yeah, it is indeed. Do you think you've had more challenges to deal with here? Listen. Because you're a female business owner? Me personally here, no. The truth is that with what I do specifically, which is networking, which is associated more, the personality traits you would associate with networking of being warm and friendly and kind. In my specific field, being a woman has only been an advantage. The challenge is once you have a child and we want more, that is a huge challenge for every woman. I think being pregnant for 10 months, when you have to hide it and you're basically ill for 10 months and, everything that goes alongside that, and then having a baby and, I was home with her for the year, which was a choice that we made to save money, but, it was incredibly hard. So I ultimately don't think that having a baby affects men in the same way it does women. And I think that's a challenge, but it was also a choice and it's a blessing to have children.
the more that I'm like networking with women at higher levels, I see the challenges that they face, and they are extreme and they are intense and terrible and must be fixed. It's not the challenges that I personally face, but it isn't to me the challenges that many women do face in the workforce in Israel, because they do, and they are terrible, and the inequality is still very profound.
No, I think it's first of all, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear just your take on it, because obviously I'm married for 20 years, but I've also got a 12-year-old daughter, and I'm often talking to her about, not so much the challenges that she's going to face, because I try not to focus on that, but more about there is no reason why you can't do anything that your two older brothers did.
Yeah, listen, I think yes, but if you want a family, which women do not have kids, it's a choice, you don't need to have children.
Yeah.
I really believe that, obviously. But if you do want a family and you want to start having kids, it does change the way things look. And being pregnant is really hard. And, some people have really difficult postpartum. It wasn't my truth, but many women struggle postpartum, and then it's really, really, really hard once you want to start having kids, because if you've made it up until that point, which isn't all by my lab, because it's still hard as a woman even without kids, but say, you've had an easy ride of it, once you start having kids, it looks very, very different. It's hard. I personally, I'll say something really, really, really personal. I had a miscarriage recently. 4 days before my mega event, I had a miscarriage, which is like really, that's really hard physically. And I had to be at the mega event, and I had to be just like on. There was no time. I was physically suffering. I was emotionally suffering, but that was a really hard day for me.
I'm sure.
And you just get on with it, because I had no choice. And those things happen to women a lot. I'm not alone.
They do happen to women a lot, and those are the things that people don't see.
Yeah, of course. I wasn't going to tell.
No, of course not.
Yeah, it was unprofessional. It was irrelevant, and it didn't matter, because it really was irrelevant. Yeah, I was here to do a job. This is the most important day of my business calendar, and I showed up, and I was exceptional, because that's what I was meant to do. But that was a really, really hard day.
I'm sure.
And women have that all the time. Women have that so often. The things that we struggle with, the things that we're dealing with are immense, are absolutely crazy. When it comes to our bodies, when it comes to these sorts of things. And I just think, I don't know how we do it. Women rise to incredible levels, and they have kids. And it isn't the nanny culture that there is in England, which I think is good in general, but people show up for their kids as well. And it's a really, really hard balance. And I think as women, we do have it really hard physically, ultimately, at the end of the day. So yes, you can do anything as a woman, 100%. But there's also realities that if you want to have a family, okay, so now you're pregnant for once, twice, 3 times. So for a year, you're ill, essentially. That's a lot on the body. So it's complicated. It's still very, very complicated at the end of the day, because men can't give birth.
Like doing a podcast, I've been talking to people about doing a podcast for about a year and a half.
Really? What pushed you to finally do it?
Because I'm interested in leadership and management, because I've been doing it for 25 years, and like the mechanics of it. What makes... I think I'm a very people person, even though some people that may know me would think...
No, you're very easy to talk to.
But I love figuring out quickly what makes people tick and how I can help advance them. Because I don't see, if I train somebody for a year, 2 years, whatever it is, and then they go off, some people take, I've just invested all my time in them, and they've now gone and they're... Yeah. And I look at it the exact opposite. I've invested it, and I've helped that person become a better version of themselves, and they can go off and do whatever it is that they want to do.
But is it also, that's very amazing, but is it also kind of a brand leverage? Is it like a kind of a goal or strategy, or is just...
The podcast or...
No, the podcast.
Podcast is definitely... I would like to look at that mentoring and maybe executive coaching side of stuff.
Oh, that's lovely.
Because I just think it's cool.
That totally makes sense.
So, just by sitting down and talking to people like yourself and various people that are in different positions in different industries, and certainly have a different career paths and different life paths, it's interesting to just hear the stories and what they've taken from it, what they've learned from it, and how they've grown.
Because a podcast is, as you know, a lot of work. I think.
It's a lot of work.
Have you started editing?
But I have to give my good friend Revital,
Revital? Of course! Oh my God,
Revital from Israel Tech.
She's brilliant.
Amazing. Super talented.
And she's editing it?
No, she was just showing me.
Yeah. But
I'm tapping into my 3 teenage kids.
Yeah, it's a lot. So I have a podcast.
It's unbelievable how much time it takes.
It's so much, the scheduling, me cancelling twice, I'm sure I'm not the only, well, maybe I was, but...
You are.
So I was the only one, but...
you won't be for a long.
the scheduling is a nightmare to begin with, and then the filming, and then the editing, and then the posting. I mean, it's so much more work than and my seasons are 5 episodes long. I'm saying it's not a lot of episodes. It was a lot more work than I anticipated.
Yeah.
And I started it, not really sure fully why I started it. What it's become is that it's really good leverage responses, that I have the podcast, and then when they come, they can say, okay, we get them on the podcast. That's really like what it's become.
Yeah. Because I thought at one point about doing lives. Then I thought, it's hard. That could bomb.
Yeah,
that could really bomb.
Listen, also the podcast isn't going to get thousands of listens at the start. It will grow and develop. I'm happy I started my podcast, but if it wasn't for the sponsor, I don't know if I'd continue, because it's a lot of.
It is a lot of work. But I really enjoy it.
I love doing it. Yeah. I 100% love doing it. But for me, I don't know if that'd be enough of a reason to continue at my stage in life, where everything for me right now needs to be strategic. Right. Because I'm just not at a place where I'm like because of the baby and please go more kids, like it's just not the place I want to be, where I'm like willy-nilly trying things. For me, it is very strategic, but I got like a bit lucky that it became strategic. I do love doing it. Yeah. I love my podcast. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but you know what? I agree with what you've just said. I think you can be busy doing a lot of things without any direction.
100%. Yeah.
Whereas my advice to people is find what you're good at, or find what you're passionate about, and zone in.
Yeah.
And try and figure out how you can build it from something.
You have to be willy-nilly at the start. You can't be strategic because there's just no way. But now I'm at a point in my career, a point in my life where like everything right now, maybe in the future won't be, but right now everything's got to be very strategic. That's how I feel.
I think you also, when you get to be as old as I am.
No, you're in a different stage of life also.
Yeah.
Your kids are older, they don't need as much. I'm saying right now what I am like, I have to be strategic because I'm like, in 20 years it will not be that way, but right for the foreseeable future it has to be.
Yeah.
Because my focus right now, like when my baby is awake, then that's where I am.
That's your focus.
She can't be alone.
But you can be in the moment when you're in these 4 walls.
Yeah.
Outside or as a businesswoman, it's much harder. It's far more challenging to be in the moment.
100%.
Because you're constantly thinking, all right, what next? And how can I improve?
Yeah.
How can I do things better? What have I failed at? And to some extent, it's human nature. We dial into, didn't do that right, didn't do that well.
100%. Yeah. And even when I do, like with my mega events now, like, mostly they're like pretty much all good. Do you know what I mean? There's like a few things here and there, but and I don't feel that rush because it's all, you know what I mean? So it's really a challenge. You're finding satisfaction in your work. It comes from inside of you. It comes from you being satisfied. That's the only way. You can do amazing things at work, but if you're not satisfied inside of yourself, it'll mean nothing anyway. Yeah.
I remember listening to, you're not a football fan as you've said, but I'm a huge football fan.
Oh yeah? Who do you support?
Rangers. Glasgow Rangers. Oh. So I remember an interview, best manager we've ever had, Walter Smith.
Well,
and it means nothing to you. But in an interview, they were asking him, how do you motivate the players? And he said, if you're playing for this club, and I would imagine, any major sports.
I'm going to stop you right there. How major is the Rangers? Where in the league are they?
That's the end of that one.
Are you in the Premier League?
No. In Scotland?
Do you play the English leagues on there?
No, we're a Scottish club.
Scotland has its own league.
I'm not going to edit this out, by the way, just so you know.
Scotland has its own league?
Yes.
Really?
It's not in Antarctic.
How many teams do you have in Scotland that you have your own league?
It's like 40 clubs or something.
And who's top?
We're not going to talk about that right now.
But where are the Rangers like?
Anyway, my point was, Helena, he said, if I as the manager,
the Rangers, the 8th best team in Scotland.
If I as the manager need to motivate these players, then there's something wrong. Because that ambition and that desire has got to come from within.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you can't. You can lead a horse to drink water. You can't make it drink. Yeah.
And to say, you know what? Obviously, not everybody's a professional sports person, but I think no matter what you do in life, that desire or motivation to just be the best version of yourself every day.
100%. Yeah.
Has got to come from within.
Yeah. 1000%. And I think my generation is like much better with mental health and talking about these things as well. I think that's really improved. And I talk about mental health a lot on my LinkedIn, as you've said, it's something I'm very passionate about. I think it's so important. But yeah, it has to, it's all from inside of you. If you're unhappy, then it doesn't matter how rich you are at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I agree. I finish every episode with a saying that I love.
Mm-hmm.
of failure is a bruise, not a tattoo.
No, I like that. That's
very
good. Nice.
I like it. And I always ask whoever I'm speaking with to share a professional moment where they've received a bruise, but they've come out the other end having learnt and really continue to move forward.
Yeah. It's one I use all the time, but I'll say it anyway. I was thinking if I have like a new one, but the biggest one really is that in COVID, everything went online.
Yeah.
And I thought, like what I've said before, the business was fully face-to-face. There was no online networking at that stage. So I decided, actually, funny enough, I spoke to Yoel. I was very stressed and I spoke to Yoel and he really inspired me, actually. Shout out to Yoel.
He does that.
Yeah, he was really inspiring and he inspired me to create something like a kind of an online course, which did well-ish. So I decided to take it further. I'm very good with ideas. My execution is less, but I have no shortage of ideas. I'm going to create something called the Jewish Women's Global Network, which is a great idea, yeah? And I'm going to get all these huge influencers. And in Instagram, they were huge. Like they were the peak of the because everyone was on Instagram all the time. Yeah. They are going to publicize it. They'll get 90% of the profits. I'll get 10%, but I'll make money because how can people not buy from these influencers?
Yeah.
And it seemed really like a no-brainer. Like, how could this possibly fail? Wow. I mean, I think I sold 3 tickets to this whole thing. I had huge influencers coming to speak and no one was going to turn up. And I remember just lying on my bed. I remember my husband and his mother went to the supermarket, which in COVID time was like the only thing you could do. And I lay on my bed just crying. And I would never do, even you learn resilience, you learn that nothing is the end of the world. But at the time I really thought, oh my God, this is it. The business is over. It's so humiliating. It's so embarrassing. And I just cried as if I was in a movie, do you know what I mean? So emotional. In the end, I just gave out tickets for free essentially because I had no choice and whatever. It wasn't amazing, but it was whatever. We made it through to the other side. I don't think I learned anything immediately after that, to be honest. But looking back, what I now see is the importance of branding, and you can't create a whole new brand in a week essentially.
Yep.
And I think that's really the main thing, and also that it's never the end of the world. Nothing is, and what I think I learned intrinsically, I don't think I was aware of it, but and what COVID really gave me was a muscle to handle things. I didn't ever feel that stressed or that whatever because and even when the war hit, like I said in my business, I kind of knew what to do because I'd been through COVID and smaller operations, obviously. Now again, I don't want to compare anything to the war. Personally, I don't want to it's a different story, and I don't really like to talk about our business because it's a very, very hard reality to live in. And all the hostages should come home, but business-wise, I was, I kind of knew how to handle it, and I think I handled it in the best way that I could.
I think that is a great place to stop.
Thank you so much,
Helena. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.